This is the HomeTech Podcast for Friday, November 15th from Sarasota, Florida. I'm Seth Johnson.
From Reynoldsburg, Ohio, I'm TJ Huddleston.
And from Pickering, Ontario, I'm Gavin Campbell.
And welcome to the HomeTech Podcast all about home automation, home technology, and hurricanes. Got another one coming in, guys. I'll see you guys next week.
Sweet.
Who knows when this podcast is going to get edited?
Man. Is it hurricane season right now? Why do you have so many hurricanes?
I don't know. I'm okay. We're giving up on this one.
I don't know anything about Florida. If I'm being honest, I lived down there for a couple of years, but try not to pay attention to your state.
Is it headed straight to you again?
I mean, it looks like it's going to hit Florida probably. So yeah, maybe. Looks like a pretty decent one too. But it's a good week out, I think. So probably by the 20th, we'll know something. We'll know something before the 20th. It'll be landing or not in the 20th. But according to the forecast models, it looks like something's heading this way again. Yay!
That blows.
Yeah, it could. I'll have the camera up so we'll actually see it blow.
Yeah, that's my interest. Not that I like seeing your house getting destroyed or anything like that, but it is entertaining to watch, and I appreciate it.
Well, to be fair, it's not like we would see it destroyed, right? I mean, he would lose internet before then, so yeah. You can sleep well, Gavin.
Well, if I'm here, I will try and keep the internet. I'll have more batteries and stuff to try and keep the internet going longer or something. We'll see what happens. Yeah, weird season. It's running late this year. I mean, I guess technically through the end of November, I think it's hurricane season. The Philippines are getting hammered. They just got hammered by one storm, and then there's like 2 or 3 more lined up behind it. I tried to look at the tracks, and there's just so many lines like going over the Philippines right now. It's like, yeah, what am I looking at? It's insane. It's still warm south of here, and I guess there's going to be another hurricane or storm or something build up down there and head north, and north is here. So yay, hurricanes! I'll if it does come here and it looks fun, I'll have the camera turned on. We'll watch the little day-night camera, see what happens.
Can I request like a battery-powered 5G camera so it doesn't go out? You know?
Yeah,
we need like a trail cam too as well, just in case.
Yeah, step up your game.
If I'm here, I'll have an option of doing cellular or something. So I'll figure it out. It's only a week away. And if I, you know me, I'll get this project done.
You have to get it done before the hurricane.
Won't be last minute at
all. Just remember to bring in Clippy, please.
Well, yeah. Clippy's, I don't know what Clippy's doing. He might be on his last leg. I have to dissect him and take him apart and find out why he's not recharging anymore.
I thought Clippy was dead.
Yeah, I think he's just got a loose wire in there somewhere. And that's what I feel like. Personally, I think it's just a loose wire, and he just needs to be taken apart and cleaned out a little bit. I noticed there was a bunch of ants running in when I was kind of taking him apart, and there's ants running out. I'm like, why are these ants coming out? They shouldn't be here. So, it could be an ant that just decided to go up in there and live in the wrong spot. I don't know. But I'll get him pulled apart and see what's inside and figure out what's wrong.
We might be able to find somebody to talk to you about robot lawnmowers if you want to. So.
Oh, yeah? Who might that be? Yeah, so interview later in the show today. we'll have Wayne Kreifels on. He's head of sales over at Segway Navimow. And we were able to sit down and talk to Wayne a little bit ago and talk to him about all the new stuff that they've got over at Segway. The I series, the X3 series, I think, coming out next year. They just announced them. Really cool stuff they're doing over at Segway. Sounds like an interesting company as far as everything. He was saying Segway's in like motorsports now. Like they have.
Yep.
It's crazy. I don't even, when I think of Segway, I always think of little like the 2-wheeled things you like zoom around on, and I think about the scooters. And I guess the company that had the scooters or something bought Segway. I don't know. It's a large company now. It's a very large company. They're expanding. So Navimow is one of the things they got into and started doing robot lawnmowers a while back, and they sound like they're pretty. Just talking to Wayne and his experience and what he did, it sounds like it's a pretty forward-thinking company now. So it'll be interesting to see how those lawnmowers and improve over time.
Yeah, Ninebot bought Segway in 2015. And Ninebot, you probably know most famously from those scooters you see everywhere in the world. So Lime and Bird and whoever, I don't know specifically which companies, but they make scooters for the most part. And at this point, they kind of seem like the Dyson of just like motors, where like Dyson just puts fans and everything, including headphones. Ninebot just basically puts motors and everything. So they make a lot of cool stuff, and it's kind of cool to see them into the robot space. Maybe we'll see some more with like robot vacuums and mops and stuff in the future as well. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, that would be cool. Well, we'll get into that interview later, but right now we've got a couple of home tech headlines this week. So what do you guys say we jump in?
Let's do it.
All right. Matter 1.4. The latest version of the smart home standard is out and aims to enhance interoperability across home automation devices. Despite bugs and challenges with the current implementation, they've got a couple of things. They've got a new feature called Enhanced Multi-Admin, which allows devices to connect across ecosystems like Alexa, Google, Apple Home. Kind of no matter what system I get the way I read this is like no matter what system that you set the system up in, it'll actually appear over on the other system just fine. So if you want to use it for voice control on Alexa and you've set it up in Apple Home, it's there. I think that's what it means. They also had a bunch of new stuff in there for heat pumps, EV charging equipment, solar batteries, battery backup systems, that kind of thing. So that they're promoting some energy saving stuff there. So lots of good stuff in Matter 1.4. This is Matter 1.4. It's the standard, so it's getting released now. Amazon and Google plan to update their devices with Matter by sometime early next year. Apple has, of course, not commented on things, but it just kind of takes time. It's going to take time for devices to gain compatibility and get rolled out with this. But I think, once all this is laid out there and manufacturers start building to it, it'll be nice. We'll have a Matter compatible EV charger if you want. There you go.
And I think Matter is at the point now where they're pretty much getting on par or, close to it, getting all the basics in for all the various devices. And that's a good thing, right? Like, they were missing a lot of things at first. They've been adding things. They've been working away. So pretty soon they'll have all the basics in. And I just wish it was a better way for them to control everybody to upgrade all their devices, because you talk about the big people, but all the small other people, do they have to update too, or are we going to be stuck with unupdatable devices? I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're also adding compatibility in for home routers and access points. So they're going to also support Matter in now by extending, I guess, thread networks with Matter 1.4. So you'll have Matter certified, what they're calling HRAP, home routers and access points. Matter certified HRAP devices are they going to provide the foundational infrastructure of smart homes by combining both Wi-Fi access points and a thread border router, ensuring these ubiquitous devices have the necessary infrastructure for Matter products using either of these technologies. That's a great idea. Build the radio right into the access point, so you have your data stuff going. Well, I mean, it really doesn't matter because Matter can. There we go. Matter can run over Wi-Fi if it needs to. It can run over the thread radio if it needs to. It's going through that same device. If it's built into the same device and it exists in the house, there you go. Perfect.
The other thing I think a lot of people were hoping for was camera support. They haven't added that yet. They said it's in the plans eventually, but I don't know. They didn't comment on whether it would come soon or anything like that. But I mean, I wish they would just add the basics for camera support, like add a motion sensor or something like that on the camera. Get those basics in at least. You don't have to have the full stream from the camera over Matter. It would be nice if they just had the basics so you can put them in your automation system and, automate on certain things. But, I'm pretty sure it'll eventually come.
That video stuff changes. I won't say it changes often. We definitely have, like right now, when I first started, everything was motion JPEG, like MJPEG, right? Like, it was just like JPEGs. Like it was, you would request the camera image and it would return a JPEG. I remember the old Axis cameras did that, and it was like MJPEG with compression, so it would like return frames that had the differences in them. And then you had it in like I won't say it's more recently, but you had like H.264 pop up, H.265 pop up. Now I think like everybody is kind of moving to that web. Was it WebP or something like that?
RTC or
WebRTC. Yeah. So like I won't say that like it changes, but it does change a lot. Like there's newer technology that pops on from time to time. I can see how them setting a standard for Matter might have some challenges, especially around video technology, which changes with whatever devices can handle to output. and whatever the devices can handle to input. Because you remember, like, there's two sides of it. The cameras generally aren't, I mean, they've gotten better. They've gotten way better. Because right now you have like these tiny little battery powered cameras that can output 4K video and see in the dark, through and all that good stuff. And even 10 years ago, you had nothing like that. 15 years ago, nothing like that at all. Like I'm driving around town now and I'm seeing like all of these construction sites set up with those construction cameras now, like on the towers.
Yep.
And I was getting asked on how to do that. I don't know. It had to have been 15 years ago. And I was trying to piece together the IP cameras that existed with cellular gateways. I mean, it was thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to do. And now, I mean, you can almost get some of these cameras set up, like even the DIY cameras, and do almost the same thing that I was trying to do for just a few $100s. So yeah, it's amazing to see how far the technology's come, but it again, that video stuff has changed so rapidly over the last, decade or so. I don't know if they were to write it into maybe they've got to write the standard right where they can just adapt to whatever new stuff comes along. And that might be harder to do. I don't know. I do know that we could probably get Daniel back on here and talk about this stuff in the future. Then you can ask him all about cameras, Gavin.
Daniel knows.
If anybody knows, Daniel knows.
He's just not going to tell you. He'll be like, yeah, I don't know.
No comment.
No comment. Yeah. All right. Let's see. Speaking of cameras, Apple is reportedly set to launch smart home IP camera sometime in 2026, with projected annual shipments in the tens of millions. This is reported by analyst Ming-Chi Kuo. I guess they have identified who is going to be the exclusive supplier for the new product, and the camera is going to be designed to seamlessly integrate with the Apple video ecosystem that they have, HomeKit Secure Video, which offers end-to-end encryption across Apple devices. Interesting. I've kind of like wondered why Apple hasn't thrown their hat into the home technology ring and kind of like left it up to partners to kind of like fiddle around with all the stuff. Like I think Logitech was making the cameras, right, for a while that everybody liked.
Logitech Circle, I think it was, for the doorbell or there was a doorbell one as well.
Yeah. I feel like, I don't know. Apple seems like it's kind of like this integrated company. Everything works great together as long as it has the Apple name on it. And when you get accessories, sometimes the accessories are better, but they don't work quite as nice as the default stuff. Like I have this nice keyboard, right? It's a Logitech keyboard. I use it but Apple has they have really nice keyboards and they integrate like so much closer than the Logitech thing. It's built into the settings, but now with the Logitech, I have to run another program and do all the fancy settings on it. So it will be interesting to see what they do with this. If there is a video camera coming out that supports this. This is one of those things that's rumors, Apple rumors. You never know. You never know if this is like a true thing or just something like it's a rumor. The way I like think about some of this stuff when I hear it, I'm like, I wonder if it's a rumor or if it's a rumor that somebody started to get somebody fired.
Yeah.
And like, they're like, oh, the camera thing got out. We know who leaked that. And they just they go fire that guy.
And this is something where if it is real, 2026, I feel like that's so late.
So far away for a camera.
Well, yeah. An Apple camera, I almost expected this like 4 years ago. I feel like this should have been out a number of years ago, and 2026 is like, what's taking you so long? This camera better be amazing. I think it builds Siri into it or something. I don't know.
I don't see this being a real thing, if I'm being honest with you. I see this as a rumor that never comes true, simply for the fact that Apple doesn't make any other smart home accessories. And a camera, I don't know, camera's a weird one to start off with, right? I mean, like, if you're going to dip your toes in, you might do a light switch or you might do an outlet or something else. But a camera, I don't know.
I don't know. Cameras, especially doorbells, are the number one outselling IoT device.
A doorbell, I think, would make sense if they did a doorbell, but I don't know. Just in general, the idea of Apple doing a camera product minus something that's built into something else is a weird thing.
And the date really throws me off too. Scheduled for production in 2026. Like, why would it take this long? Like, these cameras exist. Like, you could go onto Alibaba right now, find a supplier for a camera and get millions of these units shipped over.
That's not the Apple way, guys. I mean,
know,
they gotta
right?
have to completely redesign the camera. I mean, this is gonna be revolutionary.
Exactly. They'll have a whole video with the little things breaking it down in the parts inside, and what M chip runs inside of the camera and everything. It'll be like $699.
This is why. What is that drone thing that Amazon had that like fly around your house and look at?
That was Ring. Yeah, Ring had that thing.
Do.
Yeah,
maybe this is what Apple's gonna do though. That's why Ring never came out with their version. Apple sued them. This is the IP camera.
I wonder where they're going to put the power button.
You don't need a power button. It's just always going to have power.
It's always on. It's always on. You can't shut them down. Let's move on here. This story, I was laughing when I read this because I owned one of these a long time ago, and yeah. Xperi, the owner of TiVo, is set to launch a TiVo OS powered smart TV here in the U.S. by the end of the year.
Is this April Fool's?
Production will reportedly begin this month with an unnamed U.S. partner. And a second partner is expected soon. TiVo is aiming to ship 2 million units by the end of the year and 7 million by the end of 2025. They didn't say in here who the selected part the deal is with, but they say it's a top 5 supplier of smart TVs here in the States.
Best Buy.
So is it going to be on? Is it going to be what is the Best Buy brand that they have there?
Insignia.
Yeah. It's not going to be Roku. They've got their own thing going on. So I don't know. This is going to be like Roku, but with TiVo. And I like TiVo. The interface was great. It was fast and snappy. It worked. You pressed record. I don't know that this seems like really late to the game here. Like, what happened?
The only time I ever had experience with TiVo is when I moved down to Florida and I was working on like expensive houses, and we'd have these like crazy cable card setups or whatever was going on. And at that point, it just seemed very outdated. So I don't have any experience with TiVo like when it was good, I guess. But I didn't even know they were around still.
Oh, no. It was good when the cable cards existed because you didn't have to deal with you had to deal with the cable company, but you had to install their stupid cable cards, and they never brought those to the install. You could try and line it up as much as you could, but they would never bring them. And they'd be like, let me call around and see if somebody's got them on their truck. Like, it says on your work order, bring 2 cable cards, and they never would. So yeah, it was a pain. But I recently got a notice that our cable company, we're not going to be supporting cable cards anymore. They were like, we're done with these, and you can return the cable cards and go pick up an Apple TV and have fun with that.
That's your new cable card.
So yeah, like why they should put a TiVo app on the Apple TV and call it a day, I think, because that's really what they need to do.
That's what they're doing up here is with the Bell. You can load the Bell app on our Apple TV and watch your TV through there. It gives you the guide and everything. We never really had, we never had TV cards up here. I don't think any of them had them, right? So we never dealt with that. But yeah, they've been moving to Fibe and everything's streaming, and yeah, you just get an Apple TV, and the only thing is people complain about the remotes. Like working in the guide with the Apple remote just sucks.
Well, just in general, the streaming devices are not set up for a guide.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just not. They're meant to go to a specific place and look at a menu of things, and that's it.
Yeah.
And that's where I think if streaming were ever to fix that, I think we'd be in a lot better place, but nobody has perfected that option yet.
I will say TiVo did have a great remote. It was fairly nice. It was people really loved it. I had one that I liked it more. It was called Replay TV. It was same idea, DVR. It was before then, and it worked. It was like pre-cable card era type stuff. So it would actually either control the cable box, I think, through IR, or just tune in directly through the tuner it had. But yeah, it was a fancy VCR essentially, and the remote on it we liked better. And the thing is like I don't know, TJ, if you remember the cable boxes we used to have, like the old Motorola's and the things Scientific Atlantic or whatever it was.
Yeah, those were the nice ones because you could tell where the IR sensors were.
Yeah, that's all you could tell with them because they were hot garbage and they would never work and they were just awful to deal with. So like if you ever got a job with a TiVo and it had like, I don't know, IP control or just discrete IR commands you could actually use on it to turn the box on and off, reliably. It was great to have. So, bygone era. Now just download the app, run it on the Apple TV.
And it's amazing because I've seen some of these Android boxes that, are built for, the gray area streaming IPTV, right? But I have to admit their interfaces and their remotes are amazing, right? Like their remotes they work perfectly for guide setups and stuff like that. And they were even better than our legal TV services. So, I'm surprised they don't implement some of that.
It would be funny if they did, and then they got sued by the gray area Android TV. It's like, you can't make a nice remote. We have a patent on that. That's too funny. All right, let's move on here. We've got one more thing here in the security realm. I guess Amazon's Blink has launched a new Sync Module XR. It's a third-generation hub, which extends the range of its battery-powered Blink Outdoor 4 cameras up to 400 feet. How do they do that? Well, it's going to use a new proprietary long-range radio in the 900 megahertz frequency, which allows for this ultra-low power video transmission. However, the video quality will decrease over distance. It's got you about 720p at 250 feet, 360p at 400 feet. That's kind of awful. Usually over Wi-Fi, you get a full 1080p or above. Well, there you go. For 50, I guess it's $60, initially available with a bundle with a free outdoor 4 camera. So not a bad price. If you need a outdoor camera, at a pretty low price, this sounds pretty good, actually.
Yeah, I've never been a big fan of the Blink lineup myself. I think there's better cameras for the option there, but everybody I know with Blink cameras really loves them, and they have nothing but positive things to say about them. I don't think this is a good option, really. I mean, because that's such a low quality, isn't it?
Correct.
I kind of understand what they're going for, and if you have no other option, I think this is a good option, but it is very low quality. I don't know. I'm kind of torn on it.
Yeah, and I feel if you're going to do something like this, you want good quality, on your video feeds. Like, I would just throw another access point out there somewhere and get another camera and work with that and get the high quality. I don't know if I would want to look at 320
360.
Yeah, that would drive you nuts. You wouldn't be able to identify anything in that.
That's what I'm saying, especially nowadays when everything you have 4K. Like if you have a 4K OLED TV in your living room and then you look at this video or this photo, are you going to be happy with it? Probably not.
No. I just put an access point.
It's definitely a step back. You're going to see a lot of pixels at that point. But yeah, it says you could actually if you get a Wi-Fi extender or something like that, you could get in and potentially get better video over that. But again, it's going to be using more bandwidth with Wi-Fi than or with that 900 megahertz. So.
That is true. That's a neat option.
Yeah. For $60 with a free camera, it's not a bad option. Again, going back to what we were talking about before, like how cheap the cameras have gotten. This is exactly what somebody wanted to do. They wanted to have a job trailer and a little camera sitting outside that they could look at. And, now they can get it for $60. It's like, yeah. Before it was thousands and thousands of dollars plus, hundreds of dollars each month for an LTE, phone subscription, because the phone company had no idea, like, oh, you're transmitting data. That's a lot of money. We need to charge you extra for that. It's just crazy back then. Anyway, moving on. All the links to topics we discussed tonight can be found over in our show notes at HomeTech.fm/505. All right, well, let's go ahead and jump into the interview with Wayne Kreifels over at Segway. Wayne was nice enough to sit down and chat with us a little bit about what Segway's been up to and some of the new products they got on the market. So let's go ahead and play that interview. Hi, Wayne. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, how are you guys?
Doing great. We as we discussed a little bit before the show, we've been talking about robot lawnmowers. We've been talking about the robots for a long time. Gavin's convinced that he's got to treat them real nice because they're going to take over one day, and you got to treat them real nice. And then I'm the first one to make it do manual labor. I'm the first one to sit out there and like, hey, you got to go mow my lawn and put my little robot lawnmower out there to go do its thing. But I don't know. We really like these. We like robotics, automation in general, I think, between all three of us. And this topic has come up enough that we thought, man, it'd be really good to talk to somebody in the industry about what this is all about, what this movement's all about. And you guys reached out, and I think this is going to be a great conversation.
Yeah, looking forward to the conversation.
Before we get started, tell us a little bit about yourself what your experience is in the industry. It's got to be a pretty new industry as far as like automating a lawnmower, but like tell us what your background is and how it applies to what you do at Segway.
Yeah. So I've been in the industry for quite some time. I mean, robotic mowing's been trying to be introduced in the US as early as 2012. America wasn't quite ready for it yet. And quite frankly, the technology wasn't quite there. And then it kind of went back to the drawing board and figure out what people's needs and wants are, and kind of was reintroduced again by, one of the same manufacturer I was working for in 2017, and it did get adopted a little bit. But what we quickly found is there's a ton of education that needs to take place. And it was really, it needed a technician to install it, right? So it wasn't a bot that you could just buy over the counter, go home, and expect it all to work seamlessly. So we needed to figure out how to come over that hurdle. And where we are today with Segway Navimow, I think we have came over the hurdle. So I've been kind of following this, since 2012 to today, and today I think we're there, and I think we're getting some, really good early adopters still today. We haven't quite crossed the chasm yet, but we're darn close with it.
I think there's a little bit of like you said, it's education and of understanding what they could do, how easy it is to set up, and and just get started mowing your lawn. I think that's once you guys cross that hurdle, I think it's going to make sense to a lot of people.
For sure.
So I personally have the Segway Navimow i110N. I think it's fantastic. But can you give us an overview of the other products in the lineup and what else you have?
Yeah, so we our first generation is the H series that we launched. So we launched that in 2022 here in the US. Couple of years ahead of that, we were already in the EU doing pretty well. So the H went to the I series, which is what you have, which we now have really deemed our true DIY model. So we have the I-105 that will do an eighth of an acre, the I-110 that will do up to a quarter of an acre. And then we just launched the X series at Equip last week here for the US. So then you're looking at a 3/4 of an acre model, clear up to 2.5 acre robot. So the models are expanding, and there'll be some other launches that happen late 2025 that we can't really discuss now, but I think the general public will be very excited about the next launch.
I have a good question regarding kind of like how you went over the overview. And I've noticed a lot of other brands do this too, where they say that it depends on like how many acres or quarter of an acre, half acre, 3/4 of an acre, that kind of thing. What really determines that? As far as like, if I go to the car lot and I buy a car, right? It has a little sticker that says it gets 25 miles a gallon or 30 miles a gallon or whatever. And like, there's a test for that, I'm sure, that to do, but like, how do you guys determine what you mean by that? It's able to cover this square footage.
No, that's a great question. So it really all boils down to battery capacity and the width of cut, right? So when we start designing these, we look at it, what can this robot do with this many amp hour battery, this width of cut, and this charge cycle, and we try to all fit it in within a 24-hour period.
Oh, okay.
So we look at it of like this machine going out to complete its full task in a 24-hour period. That includes the cut time, includes the charge time. Then it also allots a little bit in there for people with irrigation, just to where it may not have a full 24 hours to get it done. So the engineers kind of put in that equation that we don't know as manufacturers, but they allot a couple of hours for irrigation to go off. So basically, it's built on a 24-hour clock, cut width, charge cycles.
Now, can you hack that? Like say I have different zones that I want mowed at different. Like, could you? Because I mean, okay. I've got the Timo version of the. I bought mine pretty early on. And I got a good price on it. And I just said, okay, I'm gonna buy this thing. Let's just say it was very inexpensive, and it certainly has shown how it's basically the Roomba kind, where it just kind of runs around and bumps against the wire and turns around.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can set it loose, and it'll go out and do its thing over a period of time or days. But since it's completely random, like I'd never paid attention to what it was doing or where it was. But like, unless it goes like over the line and gets stuck or whatever, like I never really had to care the square footage that it could cover. I really had to care too much about it because it just seemed like over time, it just kind of took care of the yard.
And that's what most robotic owners say, that own the robotic mowers is like you're very obsessed with it at first. When you when you put it out there, you're
just following it around.
You're following around, you're watching it, you're videoing.
The neighbors are taking videos of it. Yeah, it was weird.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you're like, oh my gosh, it didn't finish, or it's taken this long. In robotic mowing, it is that education piece. It doesn't really matter how long it takes to get it done. Because you're not doing it. Right? Who cares? The robot's on its own schedule. It's doing what it needs to do. You wake up in the morning or come home from work and you have this beautiful manicured lawn. So you really don't care.
Right.
So, and that's how we try to sell that to people too. Because it's always that question, like you ask, like, well, how long is it going to take to do the quarter acre? Well, it's based on this 24-hour period. To answer your question, can it be hacked? Can you do something?
Well, no, I mean, like I was more saying like throw it into this zone on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, that kind of thing. Yeah.
You can zone management. You can map manage that. So TJ probably knows that he's probably dissected his map with our app.
Several different zones.
Yes, several different zones. Like you want this zone one day, this zone over here the next day or whatever, and then you just kind of keep it on that cycle. The robots out here where I live, I'm in Nebraska. I live on a fairly large acreage, so I do have the luxury of being able to have all of our Segway Navimows out here running and trying a couple different things and beta testing some of the new ones that are coming out. We always are evolving that app to do better map management. So it is super cool to see, and it's super cool to see that technology change. And then it's just getting more and more acreage coverage.
Yeah.
And using the same size battery, but just using the algorithms and the AI and the cameras, everything that we're having now to make this robot more efficient.
So I know one of the reasons that I looked into getting a robot lawnmower when we bought our house last year, I just bought like a $50 or $100 gas powered lawnmower off Facebook Marketplace. I just needed something to get me through the season. But I started looking at electric lawnmowers because I wanted something that I didn't have to worry about gas. I could just walk into my house and charge a battery, and that's all I had to do. But when you look at brand new electric lawnmowers, they get kind of pricey. You can easily spend between $500 to $1,000 by the time you do a battery and the lawnmower and the charger and everything like that. And so I kind of turned my attention to robot lawnmowers. And when you guys released the Navimow series, the I series, that was one I actually started to get serious about it because it was basically the same cost I was going to spend unless I went to like one of those Facebook Marketplace deals or eBay or something like that. Could you give us an idea of who this product is aimed for? Is it people in townhomes and stuff that don't want to maintain their yard? Is it people with large properties? Kind of what do you see in there?
It's really everybody that has a yard. That's how we teach our sales team. But our core focus are the people that are really the DIY people that really do truly care about their lawn. They care about they want to get neighbor envy. So if they're going to be looking at that $1,000 battery powered walk behind, you're right. I mean, because we start at $999 up to the $1,299 in that I series, and then you're looking at a well-groomed lawn that machine's going out mowing 2-3 times a week, and you're not doing it. So there is the big time savings, and there's pretty much everybody on this call, I'm sure could think of anything better to do than mow. Right? Even the people that tell me that they love to mow, they're just fooling themselves because they're the same guys that would rather be on the golf course or on their Harley or whatever. Like, don't tell me that. You don't like to mow. Nobody likes to mow in July in 99-degree heat. There's nobody that does that loves that.
Last year I would have argued with that, but this year I agree with that because just walking out and having the grass cut already and not having to worry about it, it's such a time saver. It's one of those things I just don't worry about. And as long as you schedule it when you're not outside, which is for me most of the time because I'm always inside, it's fine. You never even know it's there until you come out. And like you said, you see the grass cut already. So I think it's a fantastic device. Unlike a robot, vacuum, where it's probably going to be in your way because you're walking around your house and everything like that. So I think it is one of those cool devices. I already know what the installation and setup process looks like, but what does the setup process look like for the end user? Is there any of those guide wire things that maybe Seth was talking about? How does that whole process work?
Yeah, so this is a wire-free unit that runs on RTK and 4G. If you decide to add the 4G module to the I series, so it's pretty basic. You get home, you open the box. There's a QR code right inside the flap of the box. It demands you to kind of download that. The app kind of just takes over at that point and connects to your mower, and then it just walks you through step by step. Typically, a typical homeowner with just a standard size lawn under that quarter of an acre should have one installed in 30 to 45 minutes. Really simple. And like I said, the app is always evolving and it's getting better and better. What we use is an RTK reference station that it does come with like a shepherd's hook you can stick in the ground near the base station, the charging station, or you can put it up if you have a lot of tree canopy around your house. You could get it up to a higher elevation and get a lot better satellite signal for your machine. So the better the signal, just like our cell phones, the better it's going to work for you.
Yeah, RTK is kind of like I don't know how to describe it. It's like more like a localized GPS thing like a beacon.
Yeah, triangulation. It's just it's triangulating exactly where the references to the robot.
I gotta say from experience, that part was the worst part of the setup, not because of anything Segway can control or anything like that, but finding a place to install the antennas was difficult because wherever I have power is right up against the house, and they obviously don't want to be right up against the house because that wireless doesn't work that well when you do that, and so that was the worst part of the setup for me. But I've had it in the same spot now all year, and it's worked fine. So I think it's one of those things that once you find out the spot, it's not terrible, but that one took me a little bit longer.
I'm not for sure when you purchased yours, but we did change the app to do the antenna locator for you. It asks you to drive the machine around your yard.
Yep,
and then
that was super helpful.
Then it tells you, hey, you should be really good, right here. Yeah, and it did seem to solve and reduce a lot of phone calls.
Yeah, because at least tells you the general area and stuff where you should put it at. And so that way you don't, I couldn't imagine setting it up before then. Did people just guess at it?
They guess at it. I mean, it's kind of telling you to look up at the sky and make sure you have that 110 degree view above you.
Yeah, that's much better with the app.
But what you view as 110 degrees and what I view as 110 degrees is probably completely different. So that's where that antenna locator has really simplified it and made it a really user-friendly installation process. We try to make it as seamless as possible.
Yeah, no, it was pretty easy with that. So
one of my favorite quotes, I was told there would be no math. So like, as a programmer, it rings true every day. I'm kind of laughing at TJ's worst part of his setup, putting an antenna up whereas I was, I think what I did was I put a board down, like a heavy, like a 2x4 or something, and then ran so I could keep a straight line, and then ran the edger into the ground to bury this tiny little wire that can pop out of the ground at any point in time and get cut by somebody. I don't know who's out in my yard, but it gets cut all the time. So yeah, that's pretty awful. If you guys can avoid any of those types of systems, that's the best way to do it.
If anything, Seth helped sell the I series because his complaints about the wire all the time, I was like, I'm never going to deal with that. I don't want to. Seth has problems constantly with his wires, and so I'm glad that I don't have to deal with that.
Yeah, that has become pretty troublesome here in the U.S. I mean, there's a couple reasons. You got the ground squirrels or rabbits. Rabbits seem to be like really love that low voltage going through. And they're attracted to it, and then they eat it. And the other thing is that I've learned, and I'm no chemist, is a lot of that coating now on a lot of these wires we buy, and I'm not just talking just the robotic wires, but just wires in general, are bio, like out of like soybeans.
So
that's why So that's why the animals could sense that and then dig it up and eat it, and then cause your mower to go down.
Spicy spaghetti.
Yep.
I learned something new today, if anything. That's what I'm going to remember from this whole thing.
Spicy spaghetti or...
Oh, too good. Well, all right. So we've talked a little bit about the products. X3 is the newest line that's come out. It sounds like it's going to cover a lot more of the area. And I think we mentioned, or I saw that it had like a little attachment to do edging on it as well.
Yeah. So we're the first to the market now to add a trimmer to the side of the robot. So it'll trim your boundary, and then it'll go around and trim all of your keep out zones for you. The thing with robotic mowing is you're within about 3 centimeters of accuracy. I mean, it's pretty small, but it's still enough to where you'd have to go back with a trimmer, a string trimmer, and kind of clean up a couple of areas around your property. So we wanted to see if we can make that autonomous. So what we were able to do is make it semi-autonomous for you. You get into your app, put your string trimmer attachment on the new X series, hold a button, and then it goes around and trims everything on the outside perimeter, everything around your trees that you've used as keep out zones. So virtually, you don't have to walk with the trimmer anymore. Just have your robot do it all.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
It's kind of like with a little brush on the robot vacuums that's like
reaches out underneath and gets stuff.
Yeah. That's a great idea.
A little more dangerous though, it sounds like.
Yeah, so that's why we're very clear that it's semi-autonomous. So you when you're in your app, you just got to hold the button until the robot goes around and does all the trimming, and then you can let go. So it's kind of a operator presence type thing, you know. But again, you could just sit on your deck, drink a beer, hold the trimmer button function, and let it go do all the work. And before you finish your cocktail, your trimming's done.
What a life!
And you're not sweating.
I live in Florida, so right now there's a giant truck out there. There are people running these giant lawnmowers. You probably can't hear it because of the noise suppress, but I can hear it. It's very loud, and like the difference between that and what I do when my little guy was working. Rest in peace, you know, like
hurricane took him out.
I don't think it's been a year. Yeah. The hurricane may have taken him out. It's like I can run that thing starting around 7:00 at night and it'll finish up at midnight. Who cares?
Right.
Not me. Like it's just running around outside, making absolutely no noise. Every now and then you hear a thunk of it. It's a stick or something.
Yeah.
But like, I don't even have to schedule it around the time I want to use the lawn. Like it just goes out and does its thing. And then, and I come out in the morning and like mine, it's got the wire. So I've got to trim up, once a week or so. And there's a little bit of maintenance involved on them with changing out the blades and that kind of thing. But like, other than that, like, it's not this, like this commercial setup they have is a massive operation. There's 2 or 3 guys out there right now with these loud gas powered machines going at it. And I'm wondering, like, one of the guys I talked to, it was one of these guys, mows the house next door, and he's curious about it. He walked up and asked about it, but I was asking him, like, do you see anything like this in your industry? Because to me, if I were him, I would buy 10 and 20 of these and go install them and set them up.
Yeah.
And then I would just charge the same amount of money for these things to run around. And then I'd go change the razor blades out on the weekends or once a week. And I could probably get more clients that way and do the trim and everything. That's the hard part.
Yeah. There are some landscapers throughout the US that are now really adopting the robotic mowing. And we're helping them get there. We're helping them manage the fleet.
Yeah. It's fleet management's got to be a problem.
Yeah. That is really the hiccup. Back then when you guys were talking about the price, you're looking at, anywhere from $2,500 to $5,000 for a robot. So it's really hard to come to scale as a landscaper to be able to do that. But when they're looking at our I series and thinking, oh my gosh, for $1,200, I could leave this bot behind. I'm providing a better service to my customer because now their lawn's cut 2 or 3 times that week versus the once a week schedule, and they all, every landscaper around, it's just having labor shortages, right? It's hard to find the labor to sit on these 0 turns or push a mower or whatnot. So it does help the landscaper out in a lot of different ways. The labor shortage, providing a better product, and also with legislation kicking in with, the noise bans and some of the gas bans that are happening over in California. This is the way that they have to go. And we say only California, but there are actually stuff up around Washington, D.C. There's pockets outside of Chicago that now has a gas ban, but it's starting to it's starting to happen.
Yeah.
Mostly because of noise. They call it noise pollution now, with the lawn equipment.
Well, it totally is. I mean,
Yeah.
it's they are so loud. I used to have one because my lawn is big enough where a push mower, like I haven't mowed it in a while, and the back is probably like 6 or 7 inches tall. We've had like 2 hurricanes, so like I've given up. But right, so like the lawn is too high now, and for me to go with a push mower is crazy. But I had one of these big mowers with like a 42-inch deck on it, and it's just a maintenance nightmare. But that thing was so loud, like I had to wear earmuffs on, and my ears still hurt when I got done using the thing. I don't know how these guys do it. Like it's gonna be a health issue.
I think we're way more sensitive to the noise now, post-COVID. We are all working from home for
that's true.
quite some time, and we did have landscapers around us, or our neighbors did, and it was so annoying because we were on calls like this on Zoom or something, and then like the blower would go by your window and you'd screaming at your computer. So I think we became super sensitive of it, but I truly enjoy it now. Like I'm fortunate in where I live because I live kind of out in the country, but like I go to my mother's house and she has a Segway Navimow, and now her neighbors have a Segway Navimow. We can literally just sit on our deck on a Sunday, have a nice brunch, and you don't care because it used to be the neighbor right behind you. You're on these 0 lot line style homes, would have to mow when you're out there trying to have a conversation, eat brunch or something like that. So it's kind of nice now that people are really adapting to the noise pollution and want to keep their neighborhoods quiet, and HOAs are starting to demand it. So that's good for us too.
Here come the blowers.
Yeah.
Our neighborhoods are all the time in the summer. Yeah, all the time.
All year round. All year round.
Well,
I was laughing. He said June. I was like, no,
all year.
It's 90 degrees in December here.
Just switching the focus to safety a bit. I just want to touch on some of the safety features the Navimow has to, avoid things like obstacles, personal injury, pets, etc. If you could just touch on some of those.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, from when we revamped the H through all the way through our new X line, we have cameras on all of our machines. The cameras are getting better and better. We're putting more cameras on to even get more intelligence. So it does now sense a human, a dog, cat, balls, bicycles, and everything like that. So the AI that's on board can identify if it's a bike, a ball, an animal, and then just completely go around it. The other thing is we have blade halt technology. So if your hands come even close down by the unit, it automatically shuts down. And I guess most people are kind of familiar with blade halt on table saws.
Yeah.
Those table saws that can sense a finger and the blade disappears. Very similar technology of what we have on our machines now. So it's pretty hard to get cut up.
I always wondered who tested those blades on the table saw.
TJ, I have a task.
Yeah, I've tested it one time, right? I'm just kidding.
That's pretty good.
And then touching on, these guys know I live in a really safe neighborhood, but if it were to get stolen, like what are some of the things, you have in place for that?
Yeah. So if it's 4G connected, it is going to be GPS tracked right down to the latitude and longitude of where that machine is at. I can give you an example. One of my regional sales managers up in the Pennsylvania area just had his X3 stolen out of his yard. It was Saturday, and we got it recovered on Monday.
Oh, wow.
So we knew exactly where it was at, and it ended up being about 5 miles from his house, and we can track him down. He fortunately did not have his anti-theft siren on because he lives out in the country, so he didn't think anything of it. Like, no one's going to come out here and steal it, but somebody did. But usually the alarm is enough to detour anybody. So the minute you pick it up and and you go outside of its virtual zone, its virtual boundaries, that alarm immediately goes off and usually spooks enough people to drop it. And you're also notified on your app right away if it's left its virtual boundaries. It goes into Google Maps at that time, and you can see the breadcrumb trail to where the machine's going.
Is that alarm series on the I series as well?
Yeah, it's under your anti-theft.
Nice.
Do you have the 4G module?
I don't. I need to get one. So honestly, I'm a terrible person because this year I bought the robot lawnmower, but I was too afraid to use it in the front yard. We never had a problem with theft or anything, but I was like, my luck is it'll run off into the road and get ran over by a truck or something. And so
he's seen mine do that. Like that's what mine does. It just runs off into the road.
And I've never had a bad experience like that with mine or anything, but my backyard is fenced in, so it's obviously not going anywhere. But so I had my neighbor cutting my front lawn for $15 a week, and he would trim it and do all the weed whacking and everything. And I had the robot lawnmower in the backyard. But I think next year I'm just going to go all in with the robot lawnmower. So I think I'm going to get the 4G module is what I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, just lowered the price on that, so it's definitely worth it.
Yeah, I think it was like $250 or something before. Wasn't it?
It's $139 for.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah. Yep. I highly suggest that.
Yeah.
Especially if your Wi-Fi ever goes down or anything like that, you're always going to be able to connect, through 4G and Bluetooth as well.
Yeah, no, that's pretty nice.
Nice. And that kind of leads into another question. So like, how do you handle like backyard to front yard transition? Like, what do you recommend to that? Because a lot of us will have a gate that actually blocks it.
Yeah. So right now, we're in development of our gate that'll be compatible with all of our units. But right now, it's really, if it's got to go to the front yard, you'll make your transport path out of your existing gate. And if you know what time you have it scheduled for, you'll know just, hey, I'm going to have to have my gate open today to let it go to the front yard and do its job. So what I see a lot of our clients doing is they usually will mow the front on a weekend because they're home, right? And they're like, I'm just going to leave my gate open. I'm home all day today, Saturday. I'll let it go do its task and come back. I'll just close the gate and it's good to go. But we are automating that process to where you can install a robotic gate inside of your gate. And the robot will just talk to it. It's going to roll up, drive through, roll back down and do its task and come back and do the same thing. So we're trying to take the human equation out of it.
Any word on that? That sounds awesome. It's something I need.
Yeah, it's in R&D right now. I was hoping that we're going to launch this spring with it, but it looks like it's going to have to go through a few more tests and also get its patent, and then we'll release it to the public. So it'll be here soon, but not soon enough for us sales guys anyway.
Yeah, right?
That's awesome.
I love hearing the automation part of it. That's the best part.
Yeah.
We touched on this before the show, but I think I missed this part, but how well does it work on uneven grounds? Like in my yard, I have a pretty steep hill at the side because we're kind of on slanted land. What kind of degrees can it handle, or are they different between the different series?
Yeah, so it's 30 degrees, but if you're looking at like an extreme slope, we have the all-terrain wheel kits that come out for the I series now. That does help with that. So they're actually weighted wheels with a little bit different tread pattern on them.
I was looking.
So we call that kind of the rough terrain or steep slope. And then we're talking about the road map. Real soon there'll be a machine that can climb hills that you and I don't even want to climb up. So we're trying to answer all the questions here in North America. And what they've quickly found out, it's like a lot of these robotic companies think that here in the US, everything looks like Europe, right? And it's
right. We
are so diverse over here with our land, from Florida to California to north, to north and south.
And that's the problem I have with the products, and I would say with them broadly, not yours, not like just in every one of them. Like they all have this super low cut. And I live in Florida, and our Florida grass prefers a cut that's like 4 inches, and I don't really, there's not too many products. I think maybe the I-110 gets close to that range or gets up there.
Yeah, we're 3.6 on the I-110, and we're
close enough.
Yeah, and we're right at 4 with that new X series. So if you're speaking about St. Augustine grass, mostly what's around that Florida market and Bermuda.
But hey, St. Augustine, yeah.
Yep. Definitely we've answered that. So yeah, some of the other brands are still playing in that 2.4 height of cut, and we've realized in the North America that people definitely like higher cuts of grass.
Well, and the grass does too. It's like, instead of getting shaved down and not being able to grow, like, I mean, you just get a healthier lawn out of it, and even with like a minor bit of watering with this type of grass, it's just the native Florida grass. But if you just like sprinkle a tiny little water on it during the winter, it turns green amazingly. And like everybody else is like, what are you doing to your lawn? What are you putting on it? I'm like, nothing. Like it's just water. He gets a drink of water every now and then. Yeah, it's amazing. Like if I go up north and touch the grass is so soft. Like it's really nice, real fine grass. And you get down here and it's just like, no, it'll cut you. It'll cut you if you step on it. It's angry grass.
Yeah. The St. Augustine's a tough grass to cut.
Yeah.
Yep.
And maintain in general. That's a tough one. I have a little bit of that backyard and I think it's all dead now, but like I've enjoyed using the Florida grass, the native species, because it seems to, it wants to grow high. Like I think even 6 inches would be more appropriate, but like it just kind of does its own thing once you get to that point. I've got to keep up with the lawn a little bit better. You can tell.
Sounds like we got to get you a Navimow down there.
Yeah. You know, I'm staring at the wheel kit. I didn't know you guys had that. That's one of the big things I had a problem with the previous model. My Alibaba version. It didn't have we have like this sandy dirt here, and when the thing would try to turn or whatever, it would just kind of like bury itself and get stuck, and there was no real way around that. And in some cases I would have to set up, you know, because it was just the standard bump kind, like I have to set barriers to like, don't mow in this area for a bit, and I'd have to let grass and stuff grow back over a couple of, you know, weeks or months to get any kind of vegetation back in there so it wouldn't tear it up and do that again. So, but like if it's just a problem with it, like getting out of that situation was always tough.
Yeah.
These little robots run into more problems than you can imagine. And I imagine you've seen more than me. But like, it's amazing that they are able to do what they do and just kind of keep rolling. I know you mentioned integrations a second ago with the gate that you were talking about, and that's kind of an in-house thing. Do you have any like other integrations with like home automation platforms out there in existence?
So the Google Assist or the Dot, I guess it's the Amazon Dot.
Amazon, yep.
And then the Google, and then we're Alexa. We're integrating with now, so you can just tell Alexa to turn on your
go mow the lawn.
Go mow the lawn.
Very nice.
Yeah. Nice.
And typically you're naming your bot. I don't know, TJ, if you've named your robot yet, but
I don't think I've named mine.
No,
I don't think so. Let me see.
They named mine for me. They named mine Clippy, which it's been Clippy.
Yep. So I have the Google Assist. So we have ours named El Chapo out here. So
that's great.
Yep. So El Chapo goes out and mows when we tell it to tell Google Assist to tell El Chapo to go mow, and it's kind of fun just to watch it.
That's brilliant. Yeah. Well, Gavin, you need one. We got to give it a good name.
I gotta get one.
I gotta say, mine's been very trouble free. I think the biggest issue I've had with mine is that we have a lot of like backyard fires, and there's always like twigs and stuff on the ground. And like one day it ran over a long twig and it like jammed up underneath the blades. But other than that, mine's been pretty trouble free set. So I think you just not buy AliExpress stuff and you'll be fine.
This is probably the case.
You need a Segway Navimow.
I mine was more of the like, let's experiment with this. Let's see what it can do. And after the 3 to 4 hour install of that wire, I was pretty invested. You know, that like negative equity. What do they call that? Like where you're like sunk cost fallacy, where you're like, I'm making this lawnmower work forever now. Like, but now there's something wrong internally, and I'm back on the market. It's definitely proven itself.
Well, and they've come a long way too. So
yeah. Well, I mean, just not having to deal with the wire, but like being let me ask you this. I have a like a side yard that you can't get to without either going over the driveway or going through a very thin, like small corridor. I'm sure one of these lawnmowers could navigate it. Like, is that something that the Navimow could do potentially? Is like get to that location?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Mine's like, oh, there's a driveway there. You put the wire there, so I have to stop. So
yeah. So you can have a transport path across the driveway, and it'll always pass that exact transport path. Or, if it's really narrow, if it's at least if it's over 2 feet wide, we could typically get down through it that way as well.
Yeah, and that part is pretty easy to set up. So we in our yard, We have obviously the backyard, and then it goes through the gate to get to the front yard. But basically, our front yard is kind of divided into 4 different parts because you have the sidewalk and the driveway. And we created that little transport path on our map, and it just navigates it by itself. There's no issue with that. It can go across our driveway, it can go across the sidewalk, and all that stuff. So that is definitely not an issue and pretty easy to set up. I'm obviously not in the market for a robot lawnmower at the moment, unless mine unfortunately meets an early demise. But if somebody listening was in the market for a robot lawnmower, what features would you say are must-haves?
I think really the features that are must-have is just a really good user-friendly app.
Yeah.
And we're kind of hanging our shingle on that. It does make it a true DIY unit. Obviously, know your grass type and make sure you are cutting it at its heights that it needs to be. So that's always important. And then when somebody's thinking about it, make sure you right size it. It's always better to buy the next step up from whatever your yard size. So TJ, what you've done is perfect, because it would have been a suggestion from us, or even if with some of our dealers, we're trying to always sell them. It sounds like we're trying to sell you more or upsell you for the price. It's really, you just have a better user experience. If you're maxed out at a 1/4 acre with the 1/4 acre machine, it always seems like someone wants to do a little bit more with it. So we try to make sure we give it some little bit of bandwidth, and also spending an extra $100 or something, will actually give you a lot longevity on those bots. Most of those bots are that like the I series lifespan is averaging right around 6 years on that I series. So, and that's with going out and figuring it in at two times a week of it going out and mowing.
Yeah,
That's pretty good, actually. Yeah, because it's more than I mow the lawn. Like,
Yep.
Yeah. It's way more than I mow the lawn. Like, I'm lucky to get out there every week or two. And in the summer, that's bad because the grass grows like 6 inches in a day. So, wow, that's fun. It sounds like I'm in the market.
It sounds like we should be selling you a Navimow ice.
Yeah.
I'll give you Seth's email after this so you can solicit him.
Yeah. And you're in Florida. We just hired a new regional manager down there in Florida. I'm sure.
Well, yeah,
coincidence.
We'd love to come down and talk to you.
Come on by. Yeah. Well, we have this kind of like fun little segment we do. We typically ask what's your favorite home automation product. But if you don't have one of those, what's your favorite? What lawn tech type product do you have? Can't be Segway. Doesn't have to be. But like, what do you like having in your lawn that maybe a lot of people don't know about and you like using?
Yeah. So I have an irrigation system out here, and we started using this year. Well, it's been kind of a drought season for Nebraska. So we put in the gauges, like the sensors that will speak to the sprinkler system.
Oh boy.
That will tell you exactly what zone is really, what zone needs the water. So it's kind of cool because it is right. Because I could look outside my office window here and say, you know what, it looks kind of dry on this zone, and the sprinklers watering that mower, and it's kicking on like a day earlier, and it's sensing it. So it's pretty cool. We're working with a company that wants us. They want our API, right, so they can have it communicate with the sprinkler system. So the robots will talk to the sprinkler box and tell you where to mow, and our bots are getting smarter and smarter, so we can start detecting drought areas. We can detect weeds in your property. So
wow, you're hitting on all literally soil moisture sensors are Gavin's love language. I mean, that's he's got them hooked up in his yard where he can tell you what spots need extra water. He's doing that exact thing himself. It's wild.
Yeah. So it's first time for me this year. So I've been kind of watching the data and how it's operating, and it's super cool, and we are using a lot less water. Like we've seen our water usage go down, and it seems like it's sprinkling more, but we're using less water.
Really cool. Very cool.
I think we're sprinkling in the right areas now.
That's the key thing. You're not overwatering certain areas, and you're properly watering other areas. So I've seen like gray areas start to turn green, and like other areas where I used to have mushrooms growing, they doesn't happen anymore because they didn't get too much water.
Right. Yep. So I think that's great tech, especially in some of these states that are having such water conservation issues. So it's it'll definitely help them out.
That's really cool. Well, it's something that's whenever you guys do that, we'll have to get you back on and talk to you more about what soil moisture sensors you've integrated.
That'll be a 3-hour episode alone with Gavin. So.
Yeah, it will be. That's too good. Well, Wayne, thanks so much for joining us here today. We had such a great time conversation with you. If someone wants to learn more about Segway Navimow, or especially the X3 line as it's coming out, I think beginning of next year, right?
Yeah. So we launched it, like I said, in just a couple of weeks ago to Equip in Louisville, Kentucky, and we'll have it available for spring of 25. It will be in our dealerships for sure.
Where would they go to learn more about Navimow?
So they can go to us.navimow.com, or they can go to segwaynavimow.com. Either one, they can learn all about the products.
Excellent. Well, thanks so much, Wayne, for joining us on the show. We do appreciate it, and we'll definitely have you back on in the future to talk more about robot lawnmowers and potentially soil moisture sensors, because that's definitely one of our hot topics here.
That's definitely my pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
And that is the interview with Wayne. Want to thank Wayne again so much for coming on the show. It was actually a really good conversation with him. We talked a little bit about soil moisture in there for Gavin. Like it was a nice, got a little bit for everybody in there. So yeah,
basically every interview at this point talks about soil moisture sensors. So I think there's a trend going on.
I think we just need to rename the show.
I find a way to work it into every conversation. Don't worry, you'll see.
If this isn't your category of the year at the fireside this year, I don't know what it's going to be. It's going to be such a twist.
You will never see it coming. Don't worry.
Oh my gosh.
Let's see if Moist Soil Podcast is available. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say, oh, it is available. Oh, yay! I can get the moistsoilpodcast.com.
We'll break down everything about your moist soil.
I'm not gonna buy it. I'm just gonna move away. But I do want to thank you, Wade, for coming on the show. It was a great conversation and a good chat about the state of current robot lawnmowers. So we'll have to get him back on next year. The X3 series rolls out, and chat with him about how that launch has gone, and what I guess it's going through the dealer sales. So what the dealers are seeing and saying about that, and what kind of feedback and new features they see being applied to that series. It looks pretty interesting. I like how it has a little accessory thing on the side and go around trimming things. Looks fun. All right, nothing in the mailbag this week, but we do have a pick of the week. I've got this little clock thing I ran across, and every now and then the internet kind of gets wonky, and you go over to like fast.com or speedtest.com or whatever, or net or whatever it is, and do a speed test, or I think Google even has like a speed test on it now. But this guy's made a ping clock. Like it will ping servers all day long. And if it starts dropping packets, or you're having like packet loss, it'll move the clock hands over to like, it'll say over to like 1,000 milliseconds, which is bad. Like you want to be in that 10 millisecond range or lower. That'd be great. But if the ping clock goes all the way to the right, you got bad internet. And if it goes to the left, you got great internet. This is brilliant. And it's all like, it's got a little like, what is that? A little screen at the bottom. It's a paper screen that has everything on it and like what it's testing and everything.
Oh, e-ink.
E-ink. Yeah. This is really cool. This is a really cool project. I like this.
I actually want one of these. So if they make one, somebody wants to make me one, I'll buy it from you. Because I'm not gonna make it myself. I'm not gonna lie.
I know it looks like a lot of like there's all the stuff. He's got all links to all the stuff, and it's like it's all handmade and custom boards and that kind of thing. So it looks like there's some 3D printing going on. I mean, I know a guy with a 3D printer. I guess I know two people. Don't you have one, TJ?
Oh. Mine's not working. So you know one person.
Oh, okay. Well, I know one guy with a functioning one.
You know one person with one. So
yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. I guess there's a lot that goes into this, but he's got all the bill of materials in the bottom and how much it will cost you at the end of the day, which
$150, not bad.
$150, yeah, or 150 this euro. So still, it could be even less. But still, it's a decent price. I think this is like one of those projects that like it comes out way better than I imagined. Like if I'm just describing it, like just looking at the picture, it's beautifully done. So that's my pick of the week, I guess. But like, I just think this could look really bad, I guess. And it looks great. This guy did a really good job of piecing these parts and pieces together to make something that's actually functional. I'd love to have, like you said, love to have one of these just hung up on the wall where I could look over real quick and see how well the internet's doing it at any given time. Gavin, you got some blank space on the wall behind you. I think we need to get you one of these.
A perfect spot for one.
I'm kind of in the boat with TJ. If somebody wants to make me one, I'll buy it off you. I don't feel like getting all these parts and stuff. I'm feeling lazy with this project.
Oh man,
this is a very involving project. Yeah.
yeah. Sometimes when I see like flashing and then you have to wire up stuff and soldering, I'm like, yeah, I have the tools, but do I want to dedicate all that time? I have my network tied into my Home Assistant, so when my pings drop, it will notify me. I get an email or a notification. So, I mean, that's enough for me. I don't need a clock on my wall, but I mean, I do have some wall space if someone were to make a few for the show, you know? And,
yeah.
And, you know, TJ wants
3.
one, I want one, Seth wants one, you know, we'll give you some money for it. And, you know, like, yeah, we're just lazy projects right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's fall going into winter time, so now I'm trying to do all the stuff I have to do before winter, which is not making a clock. So
exactly, like I don't want to assemble stuff. I just want to stick it in the soil and give me a measurement of the moisture. That's it. I don't want to have to like put things together. See, I worked it in there again. I worked it in there. See, you didn't see it coming.
Oh no, we saw it coming, Gavin. From a mile away. There's a really cool video of this thing working too, which is it's kind of fun to watch it like click around. It just kind of like wiggles as it's pinging things, and depending on the speed, it moves. The big hand moves, I guess, with every ping, and I don't know what the small hand is measuring, but I guess if I read the directions, it would probably be in there too. But it's pretty cool. We'll check it out. We'll put a link in the show notes over there. If you've got any feedback, questions, comments, picks of the week, or great ideas for a show, give us a shout. Our email address is feedback@HomeTech.fm, or you can visit HomeTech.fm/feedback and fill out the online form. All right, project updates. I ran across this article. Gavin, I wanted to run this by you and see what you thought about this article, since it is the best hacks integrations for Home Assistant 2024. Not the best Home Assistant integrations. These are the hacks. These are what people hack into it, I guess. I don't know. This is like little add-on software that you can get that expands Home Assistant beyond what Home Assistant does out of the box, which is quite a bit. What do you think about this list here? We've got Remote Home Assistant, which allows you to like bridge two Home Assistants together. You got ZHA Toolkit, which is a Zigbee home automation toolkit that you can do. And he claims it has better built-in capabilities than the Zigbee 2 MQTT, which I think it's what you use. There's battery notes, which is kind of a clever thing. I hear you complaining about a lot too. Like this is a little thing that can help you track your battery information by letting you know like when you installed the batteries last. That's kind of cool. Power Calc, which is a module that helps estimate power consumptions for devices without built-in energy monitoring. So you just kind of like guesses at it. And then it's got the adaptive lighting plugin. I've heard about that one before, where it can kind of change the colors of your lights. Presence simulation. It's kind of cool. Automate your home's lighting devices to simulate activity. So this is kind of like if you're away, you put this in and it looks like you're home because your lights are turning on, but your cars are gone in the driveway. It's weird. And then it's got the Bamboo Lab, which is, of course, 3D printing. This will tie in and give you real-time monitoring of your print jobs and print status. So, and I guess he's got one for Garmin Connect, too. If you exercise and you like fitness, you can bring that data into Home Assistant as well. So, Gavin, what do you think about this list? Actually pretty cool stuff here. I mean, I think there's something here for everybody.
Yes, I use a number of the things off this list, especially Spook. Alarmo is almost like a must-have if you're going to use Home Assistant as a security system. Browser mod I've mentioned before. That's nice for doing pop-ups and other things. Battery Notes is a cool one. One of the things I like about Battery Notes is it keeps track of when you last changed the battery in a device. So whenever I change my battery, I press the button. It says it was last changed this time. So I get an idea of how long the batteries last in certain devices. So that's been a cool one too. So I've used a number of these, and there are a couple on the list I'm going to check out. So it's a pretty good list.
The list keeps going. Dream Vacuum. I've got the Dream Vacuum, and this will bring the little map right into it that I have to launch the Xiaomi thing for. Like I'd rather have it in the Home Assistant app that I don't use. So I'll just go there.
Yeah, it's pretty good. And Battery Notes also tells you what batteries your devices uses. So,
smart.
Before you go, so it keeps track of all that too. So Yeah, there's a couple on there I don't have, but I'm gonna check out anyway. Good list. I like this list.
Yeah, Gavin, you turned me on to battery notes. I use that all the time to monitor my battery devices. That's pretty nice. Adaptive lighting, that's the one I use the most, and I'm going to brag about the most because I really like it. Having it automatically change the color, temperature, and brightness of your lights throughout the day. I pretty much don't touch my lights unless I like today, for example, as we're doing the podcast, I'm adjusting my lights in the office. I have to set them brighter because I'm actually using the room. But typically throughout the week, they just turn on automatically and they go to the exact brightness and color of the time of day, and then they turn off again. And so that's my favorite integration on this list.
I always wondered about that too, because I don't turn on lights during the day. Right. So do your lights, they're just on all the day, but I guess during the day they're dimmer and a different color, or?
Well, so depending on the room, I have lux sensors in some of my my motion sensors, and so like the living room or the kitchen, the lights don't turn on if it's above a certain brightness. And so like that way I'm not wasting electricity, even though I'm using LEDs and all that stuff. Because there's certain rooms, like my bathroom, for example, is a very small bathroom and there's a giant window in there. And I don't need a light on until it literally hits like 5 p.m. and then I can't see in there. So that's how a lot of my lights are, but not every room.
Gavin, you mentioned Spook, and I'm trying to figure out what the heck this does.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about Spook. Can you tell?
Spook adds a bunch of features to Home Assistant that aren't necessarily built in, but are useful, right? Some of the things I used it for was monitoring broken automations and stuff like that, right?
Oh.
So some of the features, Spook is actually made by Frank, who's on the Home Assistant team, and some of the features that actually get put into Spook eventually make it to Home Assistant. Right. So it's one of those add-ons where even he says, like, don't install this. I'm not responsible if it breaks something, because it can, right? But it has a bunch of good, cool features. It adds a bunch of extra actions so you can do things. And it's always been my like Home Assistant must-have add-on is Spook. It's at the point now where I don't even know what the actions that Spook I'm using with Spook, because I just use them now.
It look like they're built in. Yeah, I'm looking at one of these right here. So this is enhanced integrations groups, and it says the group helper integration helps you combine multiple entities into a single entity. And I can think of a number of places that would be very useful to monitor a bunch of entities as like a one thing, are these groups of lights on and off? If one of them's on, have that on. It would definitely speed up programming and that kind of thing. And there's tons of stuff in here. It looks like he's been very busy doing things. Yeah,
and a lot of this has turned into they've turned them into helpers. So some of these features even got integrated into it. But they have the inverse helper where you can take a binary sensor and have it inversed. Mm-hmm. Now, little things like that can make the better quality of life with your Home Assistant.
It's very cool. It's not just on the programming side. He's got more dashboard things that he has on here. He's got something about repairing stuff in here too. Repairs.
Yeah. And that's built into Home Assistant now.
Is it? Okay.
It started with Spook, where when I deleted an entity, Spook would let me know all the places that entity was broken now, right?
Yeah,
now they built that into Home Assistant.
Gotcha. I've heard you talk about that one before. All right. Very fun. The core extensions that he has in here, one of them I thought was very interesting. Let's see. It added a bunch of entities into Home Assistant that provide you and give you control over the internals of Home Assistant, so you can programmatically do stuff off that, which is nice because Home Assistant has a great API, but not all of it gets exposed to the programming side of things. And then one of the things I saw in here, I think, device management, programmatically enable or disable any device in Home Assistant by performing an action. I think you use that all the time, right? You would just turn off some devices, just disable them, I guess, in Home Assistant.
Well, I have a certain device that, would cause my Home Assistant to be really slow to start up for some reason. I think when it fails to connect to it, it just hangs things. So on my shutdown, I have an automation that will actually disable that integration on shutdown and then re-enable it after it starts up. So then the reboot's much faster. So that's an example of where I use that. Like I said, some of the stuff is very technical, but the quality of life it adds.
Yeah.
There's switch as X. sometimes you have a switch and it's a switch entity, but it's really a light. So you'd want it to be a light entity. So you can have it switch that switch and it creates another entity as a light entity, right? And that comes into play when you do things like you want to use the turn on lights action and stuff like that. You can now target the light entity and, and they act differently. So it's a really cool extension. It's a must have on my setups.
I didn't know about this. So, and it's got a cute little logo with a little ghost going, boo. So I like that. That's a cool one. A great list of things here. I've heard of Alarmo, definitely heard of Browser Mod from you just recently, from what you were talking about, adding the controls from your stuff in for the remote controls. You were talking about adding that in with Browser Mod. So
yeah, I had pop-ups on my dashboard, and I just prefer the Browser Mod pop-up.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to add this Dream vacuum thing in because I have one of these.
Yeah, that one is pretty nice as well. I've used that one.
Yeah. I like the little maps that it gives you in the app. You can see where it's going and what it's vacuumed and what it got stuck on, where it's complaining. So, good stuff. I will have to get this integrated into Home Assistant. I hadn't even thought about doing it. So, I guess now that it's here and in front of me, I'll do it. Put it on the list. All right. TJ, you got some bad news come to you this week. I guess the Govee space heaters have been recalled, and that's your favorite space heater for the wintertime. So what are you going to do, man? You going to be cold this winter?
Yeah, so I guess the Govee space heaters, literally all of them. So if you bought a Govee space heater, it's been recalled. They can overheat and catch fire, supposedly, which is not good news, mainly because I typically leave mine running for like an hour before I wake up. So good thing that it did not catch on fire for us. But yeah, they did a recall. I'm going to get my full money back. So I spent $100 on this thing originally. It was like $103 with tax because I got the big one, whatever the most souped up one was. So I guess I'll get my money back, which is nice. But it kind of sucks because this was one of my favorite smart home gadgets, honestly. I bought this, I think, last winter. I think I talked about it on the show.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things that I put away in springtime. And I just took it out like a couple weeks ago. I was like, oh man, yes, I get to, it's getting cold in the morning. I need to heat up the den outside. And I started using it and then I get this notice and I'm like, what am I going to do now? And so I guess I think some rumors going around is that just Wi-Fi controlled space heaters in general are going to get banned, which kind of makes sense. It seems like you should not be able to do that anyway, which means I'm going to have to do something presumably even more unsafe. And I'm going to have to get a regular space heater with just a Wi-Fi controlled outlet. But now it starts the hunt for a manually controlled space heater, because the digital ones, you can't just turn on and off with cutting the power.
Well, so. I guess that is from reading through Reddit comments and then reading this UL 1278. I guess the reason they are recalling it is because you can turn it on not locally, you can turn it on over Wi-Fi, and that's why they're recalling it.
Yeah. So I honestly thought about just keeping it, but I was like, man, if this just burns down my house, I'm gonna get in trouble. So I might as well just cut it and get my money back now.
Let's not fight that. Yeah. Good man, TJ. Good idea.
I don't want a FAFO.
Yeah, not for a Govee space heater.
Well. No, not for $100. So, but now I'm on the hunt for just a regular space heater. I gotta find one. So if you have any recommendations for a good quality, just one of those old school manuals, no remote. I don't need a remote. Remotes are stupid. I just need a sweet dial or buttons, physical buttons, or capacitive buttons, I guess. But the point is no remote, because I just want to turn it on in the morning before I wake up. That's it. And the Govee one was so nice though, because you could set the temperature exactly. It paired up with the thermometer, hydrometer thing that they had. So you could put it on the other side of the room and just be heat up the room to 75 degrees, and it would.
That's too bad.
It's sad.
Yeah.
It's sad. It's still in the trash can. I might dig it out. Who knows? Trash goes out Wednesday. Technically, it doesn't get picked up till Thursday. I might pick it up.
I feel bad for the Govee. It's such a great little heater. There you go. I don't need a heater, so.
Yeah, you definitely don't. I do, though. It's wintertime. It's getting colder.
Not here. This is also a Canadian recall. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Oh, I guess it's the United States as well. So
I think the Canadian one is the one that initiated
Don't
it.
blame us. Do not blame us.
And then the U.S. was like, well, I mean, yeah, I guess. Why not, right?
We'll
Didn't
jump
we
in
get
on that.
blamed last week for something? Like, stop blaming us.
I mean, no, there's a whole South Park episode on it.
There's a
Blame
song.
Canada.
Yeah, I guess 500,000 units shipped here in the States, and then another 50,000 up in Canada too. So
Yeah. And they had several models, so 500,000 isn't really surprising. I think it's one of those more useful like smart appliances. Like I see like a smart ice maker, and I'm like, do I need a smart ice maker? What's that going to tell me, that I'm out of water? This one though, this one is useful.
my ice maker was smart, and then I took its brain out. I mean, it wasn't useful. Look at it; just basically turned on and off. I didn't see.
What does it? What does it tell you, Seth? Like your little, hey, you need to add water.
It doesn't tell you anything. It tells you you could turn it on and you can turn it off, which is basically the same as walking up and pressing the button, which I basically just did, and I leave it on because when it stops, it needs to stop making ice. It just stops making ice. You don't need the button.
That's my thought process too.
Yeah.
Well, then you turn it off, it like melts the ice too. So it's like, well, no, you need to hold the ice too. But what am I going to do? Bag up the ice?
That's like my smart Nespresso machine. It was like, what's so smart about this? It just tells me it's out of water.
Yeah.
I'm making a coffee. I can see that it's out of water at this point, like, yeah, some things just don't need to be smart.
Here's the brain for it. I don't know why they decided to make this brain, but there's literally nothing it does except turn on, and it's got a power in, a ground wire, and then one more wire that comes off of it to basically turn the little button that you can press on the front on and off. They paid somebody to make this, so there you go.
You should hack it and make it turn on a computer or something instead.
It's just an ESP32 board chip thing, so I'm not. It's been sitting on my desk, and I just haven't thrown it away. It's the most useless part of that ice maker. The ice maker makes great ice, but the brain inside it was really stupid. Oh, that's too bad. Sorry to hear about your space heater. You got anything else going on?
I got a couple more projects going on. I've got my second round of Interivew switches, so I'm slowly moving to all Interivew, guys. So I have one more switch to replace. I was waiting for the Presence Zigbee light switch, but there might be some redevelopment stuff going on with that. Last I checked in with it,
there's a delay on that. Yes.
There was some different sensors or manufacturers that they were exploring and all that stuff. So I really needed to switch my lights over to Interivew, so I went ahead and canceled my pre-order, unfortunately. So I'm sorry, Eric. And I ordered more Interivew switches, so if it's any consolation to you, I still spent my money with you. But now all of my light switches minus one are Interivew, and they work great. So I'm almost there. And I even took out, and I had in the pantry and the laundry room, I had just put motion sensors. I had connected the wires together, and I was like, these two rooms, I really don't need a light switch control. Like, I just, as soon as I walk into the room, turn the light on. When I leave, turn it off. That's it. That was a terrible idea, because sometimes you need manual control. You need that physical control.
Yes.
And there was several times that like go into the laundry room and like the lights wouldn't respond or something silly. And it's just like, it just drove me nuts. So I replaced those beautiful screwless blank plates with Interivew switches. So that problem has been solved. Now, when I walk into any room, they have a light switch, because that's how it should be. Dang it! And that's what I should have did originally.
Whoops! There you go. Well, at least you fixed it.
Yeah. My second project, not entirely smart home related. This weekend actually, I hired a company to come and do our landscaping beds. I reached out to a couple landscapers, and I was like, hey, I've got this design that somebody drew up for me. I got a couple changes I want to make to it. What's the price for it? And several people gave me a price. I chose one of them, and we set the date, and this Saturday they were supposed to be here. Saturday morning, I get a text and it says, hey, what's your address? We don't have it for some reason. And I was like, here's my address. And they said, oh, we don't service your area. And I was like,
snap.
Wait, what? And it was like, yeah, we don't service that area. And I was like, well, okay, but you're a Columbus company, and we're like 20 minutes from downtown Columbus. So where do you service then? But I was like, okay. And I was like, at that point, I'm really angry, obviously, because it's like the morning of. And this is like one of the first projects we've done on the house to like beautify it. You know, other stuff has been like, we need lights, so let's add lights, or we need to like fix the electrical because the electrical is janky. Nothing's been like, we should do this because it looks nice. And the garden was that thing. It was that first beautification project for the house. And so I was angry. And I won't go into the depths of what I said or anything like that because that wouldn't be appropriate. But I contacted my neighbors. And I have a neighbor across the street who I've helped run a couple Ethernet wires for and install a rack and stuff like that. And I have a neighbor down the street who I've hung out with. Who
he called in favors.
Who works for the city as an arborist. And so I was like, and they were like, and the arborist guy, he was going to help me plant all the plants because he knows about trees and plants and all that stuff. So he was like, I'll come help you plant everything.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, this guy just canceled on me. I don't know what I'm going to do. And he's like, I'll be down there at around 10 o'clock. And so this dude is a beast. He dug out, and we'll include some before and after photos. But there was literally no landscaping done. It was just grass. This is an older photo, but pretty much nothing has changed. And he pretty much hand dug all the garden beds himself within like 2.5 hours. Like we helped. And by helped, I mean like we worked on like a 5 by 5 area, and it took us like 30 or 40 minutes to do it. And he was already done with like whole sections. I mean, he is a master at cutting grass. I didn't know that was like a skill or anything, but he definitely has that skill. So
it is here in Florida too. They actually cut your fiber line at the same time. I don't know.
Yeah, we were going that deep at least.
It is a skill, digging holes and stuff like that. Like when I see in the movies and they dig a hole to bury somebody in, I'm like, man, how do you get that done overnight? That would take me like 2 days.
Well, the hole is one thing, right? Because anybody can. I think a hole is definitely an honorable thing too. But just cutting the grass, just removing that sod layer with just like a shovel, and just that's amazing.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I mean, because I was gonna run a machine and everything, but he's like, nah, we don't need a machine. And I was like, all right, dude. But yeah, I mean, if you look at the photos here, which we'll include in the show notes, Seth is so kind. We took the front yard and we added a round flower bed at the bottom of the stairs, and then a continuous flower bed on both sides of the walkway going to the house, and then flower beds in front of both sides of the house as well. And we planted 2 trees. We planted a autumn brilliant serviceberry and some kind of red bud. I forget what kind of red bud right now. Ruby Falls red bud, I believe. And a bunch of other plants. We planted some shrubs, some grasses, and some stuff. And it's so rewarding because it actually looks like somebody lives here now. Before it looked like somebody just like rented it out or something. So it'll be nice in the springtime once these plants start filling in, and we can start adding some other flowers and stuff. It was a tedious project though. It took us all day Saturday to pretty much get the beds prepared, like just get all the grass dug out and everything. It rained all day Sunday, of course, the day we were originally going to plant. And then we actually planted on Monday and got all the mulch and everything in. And one of the parts of the project I wanted to do is make sure I kind of future-proofed a little bit. And I ran irrigation and landscape lighting. And one thing that I did is on the walkway going to the house, so the sidewalk actually going up to the house, the porch area, I dug out both sides of the sidewalk. And so that way I could run my irrigation lines and my landscape lines through that area and not have to worry about like hitting them with plants or like shovels or anything like that. And I just put the mulch on top of it. And so that way, if I ever need to service any of the lighting, wiring, or the irrigation tubing, it's all in that trench now.
Oh, I see.
And
okay, yeah.
so that way I don't have to worry about like ever hitting or anything like that. I'm not going to be edging or anything there because there's no grass. But that was kind of something I wanted to do because I wanted to be able to add stuff in the future as I needed it.
You don't have to deal with dirt, pack down, or anything. You just like remove the mulch and then you're back into it. Yeah,
yep, and it's all just in the same area there. So, and I separated the areas into 5 different zones. So the sidewalk on each side is one different zone. are different zones each. In front of the house, in different areas are different zones, and then I created a zone for hanging baskets as well. So or pots on the porch. So yeah, I'm excited. It's done for the most part. We bought some edgers and stuff like that to kind of finish the lining of it and stuff like that. I don't know if I'll get to that this year. Probably shouldn't have bought those blocks already, but they're here. So if I get the motivation to do it, I'll do it.
Sounds not fun, but it sounds like you had fun, I guess.
Yeah.
I like how you're like, hey, I've got to call some people, and then they show up. It's great.
Yeah. I'm just glad to have good neighbors, man. I mean, how many neighbors would come over to help you dig out your whole house?
Not any of mine.
Yeah.
One's a day trader, one's a lawyer.
That's why I help all my neighbors. So I'm like, I'm going to need these favors at some point. I'm going to need to dig a bunch of holes.
I don't know anybody that's an arborist.
Yeah, that was just handy. It was funny, too, because when we moved here, we walked by his name's Jeremy. We walked by his house all the time. Before we met or anything, I was like, man, his house is so nice. And if you go on to Google Maps, you can do the timeline, and so you can actually look through the years whenever Google Maps actually drove through the area, and you can see exactly when they bought their house, and the transformation is like amazing. There was basically same thing with my house. There was basically no plants anywhere, and then all of a sudden, like after like 5 years, there's just a ton of stuff. They've done a really good job down there, and it kind of gave me inspiration for my yard, because one of the annoying things with having a blank slate is that you don't know where to start.
Yeah,
and especially if you've never done anything with landscaping. Like I've literally just installed landscape lighting and audio, and that's it. And so knowing where to start was the hard part.
My house actually looks like yours without the, actually it looks like you have a tree on the side of your house. Mine doesn't have that. So like I have pretty much grass everywhere right now because all the trees have either died or been blown down in storms. So we kind of need to do something. We need to do something in our front yard, at least a tree or something like that, because I would like to do some landscape lighting out there because it's so dark and everything at night. But there's nothing for the light. Like, what am I going to shine the light on? Like the light doesn't. No plants. Right. Like light doesn't produce light and shine back into your eyes unless it bounces off something. So there's no tree for it to reflect off of. And yeah, so I think we need to at minimum put a tree in and maybe some other stuff. I don't know, but it's just a bunch of grass out there. It gets really dark, and I was just walking out today because it's dark already, and I was like, man, I can't see anything. Maybe it's a safety issue, maybe it's not. But like if the neighbors aren't home and their lights are off, their porch lights are off, it's pretty dark.
Yeah, we don't have any trees on our property. I guess several years before we moved in, there was a really giant oak tree or something in the front yard that got cut down. But we literally have no trees, but we have a ton of leaves. So, I mean, it's very, very sad because our yard is full of leaves because everybody else has trees. But one of the things I wanted to fix when we moved in is adding trees. And so I actually have a couple fruit trees on the way as well. I have a mulberry tree and a apple tree, both dwarf trees and both self-pollinating.
There you go.
So apple trees and a bunch of other fruit trees, typically, they need another plant to pollinate with, and so these ones supposedly don't. They will pollinate with themselves. So those are going to go in the backyard. So maybe in several years we'll get some fruits too.
Surprised you didn't say pawpaw tree.
Yeah, I know.
I was expecting you to.
I thought about pawpaw trees, but you need two of them. And they're not very good shade trees. They're good trees, but not shade trees, which is kind of what we need.
Well, that's too bad.
Yeah. Yeah, I looked into it, but not this house, I don't think.
I just need something to grow out there. Just probably just need to throw an oak tree or something.
Well, there's plenty of like smaller size trees. I mean, because one of the things that I looked into when we were looking at trees is I was like, I'm probably not going to be alive in 100 years to worry about it. But I don't want a tree that's going to like tower the house and possibly crush it. Like we have a small house, and so it would not be hard to get a tree that's like obnoxiously big. And so like my maximum size is like 20 to 25 feet. Like it could fall on the house and damage the house or something, but like a branch is not going to come off on a storm and like drop on your house.
Yep.
And that's kind of where I'm at with trees right now. I'm kind of happy the previous homeowner had the giant tree in the front yard took down. So I didn't have to pay for it. But we just don't have any shade now, and it sucks because it just bakes in our yard. I feel like I'm in Florida.
Yeah,
I feel like I'm in Florida, but with snow.
We it was kind of the opposite. We had a nice big tree when we moved in, and we wanted to get it trimmed. And the guy who came in and trimmed it, it was like I showed up. I'm like, oh, they're here a day early. And I drove up and they had just chopped this massive branch off the tree. Like, I'm like, well, we didn't want that. I mean, that was like the primary shade for the house. Like, we didn't want that gone. It was kind of a nice to have like this low hanging branch that went over. You could hang like a swing on it or something. Mm-hmm. He's like, oh, well, you said here that you wanted stuff cut away from the house. I'm like, yeah, but not like a giant branch. Well, it turns out if you cut a giant branch off an old tree, the tree likes to die a few years later.
Yeah.
So thanks to that guy, the tree died a few years later, and I was out there before a hurricane just like trying to cut parts of it off myself so it wouldn't fall in my house, exactly what you're talking about. And then we had it removed shortly after that. So yeah. A bunch of tree talk tonight.
Yeah, I don't worry about getting crushed, but what's your projects going on, Seth, minus getting crushed?
Yeah, well, if there's no hurricane, I don't know. So we have hurricanes coming next week. I've been messing around with this Meshtastic stuff, and it's kind of fantastic. It is like a little low message communication things. There's things I like about it, and there's things I don't like about it. It's kind of hacky. It's all kind of put together as like this open source thing. It looks like they're starting up a company to kind of like protect the branding and all that stuff. I don't know. I'm not sure. I mean, I guess the people who are working on it full time or part time or whatever kind of want to start getting paid on something. So maybe they're going to come up with some kind of like paid version or something like that. I don't know. Like, well, I just opened it up and I got a test message from somebody. I don't know where they are, but I can look at this map. And so this is the crazy thing. When I first turned it on, there was nobody really around. And then I was kind of like walking around. I kind of like moved the little antenna thing outside and I picked up somebody. I was like, what is this? There's somebody like in my neighborhood that has one of these things. Turns out the guy's like across the street from me. It's kind of funny. And I picked up one from somebody downtown, and we've kind of like had a few conversations, here and there. I was starting reading, and the only way to like really get range on these things, you have to get an antenna up because it's a radio based thing. So like this little antenna that's like sitting on my desk really doesn't have very much range outside of my garage, and it's kind of like point to point. And Florida's all flat, so there's really no point to point. Like, but here's what happened, guys. When they came and cut down the power, and they put the power underground, they cut off the pipe that was on the roof for the power that came in. So it's just like this 2-inch galvanized pipe sticking out of my roof right now. And I was looking at that. I'm like, that they put a little cap on top. It's stupid. That pipe is a 2-inch hole in my roof, and I can use that for all sorts of wires. So I went out and I got like more galvanized pipe, and I've got all these pipe fittings, and I put them all together, and I've got like this, like, I don't know, 10 or 15 foot pole that's off of it now, with fittings and wires and stuff running out of it. And, I've got 2 antennas up there. One is for this, one is for like the LoRaWAN thing. And now I'm receiving signals. I don't know why. I think it's relaying off of some random things I'm not seeing. I've got nodes that are popped up in St. Petersburg, Tampa, all the way to Orlando. I don't know how they're doing it. I'm really confused as to why. I don't think I should be receiving anything this far. I figured, a couple things here in town, but anything else, I don't know how it's happening. And there's only, the messages only transmit like 3 hops. So I can't be, somebody's got to be doing something funny here, or they've got a really, really, really high antenna that my system reached out to. But right now I've got, I don't know, 20 nodes that I'm looking at now. When I started, there was like 2, 3. So, and 2 of them were mine. I don't know. I thought I was going to have to like go around and put like little things up and sensors up to kind of like expand the little mesh that I was setting up. Turns out I don't have to because there's plenty of signal floating around town. I don't know. I haven't really been able to figure out how reliable it is or anything. Sometimes the messages go through, sometimes they don't. There seems to be no, like, the apps and the communication protocol and everything is not all that great. It's kind of like, it'll transmit. If it gets there, it might. No one knows. We'll have to see. I'm still kind of messing around with it, but I've got this big antenna. The other antenna I put up there. See, I said I had 2. I've been like using this flight tracker. What is it called? Flight Radar 24, for, I don't know, a couple of years now. I got one of those SDR antenna things, plugged it into it, a Raspberry Pi, and it's just been sitting on the top of my rack over there. It's a little like 4-inch antenna that picks up the signal from the airplanes when they fly over. And with it, I got the range of like I don't know, probably 30 miles, right? Planes that were flying over Sarasota, I would probably see about 1,000 planes a day just because of the traffic we have here in Florida. Like planes fly over to go into Miami or flying south, going South America or whatever. There's definitely a lot of traffic that goes through here. Well, I was like, while I'm putting this up there, I can put another antenna up there for my flight thing. And I will just move everything in and put everything up way up high, and that'll get it out of the garage here. And when I did that, guys, I'm not kidding you. I'm getting signals from like the entire state of Florida in my house and out into the Gulf of Mexico and down south. And like now I'm seeing up to about 170 nautical miles. I don't know what that is.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is either, but that sounds like a lot.
Yeah. I guess you could go further. I don't know. But anything that's real up high, I can see pretty much across the state of Florida. It's a lot of fun. And the little flight radar screen, I can filter out where, like right now there's a plane going over St. Augustine, Florida, all the way up to Jacksonville. And I'm receiving the radio signals from it. Now it's way up there in the sky, and that's why, but
that's crazy.
It's kind of cool. I was not getting that before. I was getting like basically from here to Tampa. That's it. A couple of helicopters. But this is kind of wild. I'm seeing, I don't know, a number of planes all over the state that are, especially the ones that are up high. And then I can see everything that's local here too. So that's kind of what I've been working on in the background. I'm still going to mess around with this Meshtastic thing. So I found there's a bunch of this platform that they're working on has really got me intrigued. There's this thing called Rack WizBlocks, which like everybody uses the ESP stuff in our industry because it has like the Wi-Fi built into it. Well, these guys, they don't have the Wi-Fi built into it. It has Bluetooth, and then it's got the LoRaWAN radio on it. But the little chip that's in the middle here, I got to take this off. The little chip that's in the middle, you can like that can be popped out, and it's like a little platform of a board, and it's got these little tiny connectors on it that you can slap other things on. I don't have one sitting here, but I have like a PoE module, and I can slap a PoE module on this and get Ethernet and just power this whole board with PoE and take the wireless antennas off if I wanted to. So it's a really interesting like IoT platform. I don't know, like these guys are using it. I don't know if there's too many other things out there using this rack system. But it seems to me like between ESP32 stuff and this rack, which I forget, it's like an N52 or an NR52 chip or something like that. Between those two things, like you could do a lot of stuff with this. And they've got all sorts of little add-on modules on their website to add on like different IO or different sensors or things like that, that really make it a really cool like IoT platform. So I'm excited about that because I can literally just tag on to one of these little boards, like a different sensor that I need for these little water sensors that I was thinking about doing. And it'll just go right into it. It's low powered. It's actually lower powered than ESP32. So it can run off like a battery or solar power. I don't know. It seems like it's going to be a really, really fun thing to set up. And since I can run it on Meshtastic and just report back the data that way. It'll add to the mesh that I probably don't need to add to here in town anyway. So turns out there's a lot of people here. I can't believe how many people have popped up. It's kind of wild.
I looked into getting one after listening to I think Mike Weger on the Home Gadget Geeks.
Yeah.
Talk about it because he loves it. And I have an old Raspberry Pi keyboard, but I don't think they make like a USB antenna that I can just like plug into. I think I have to like build something basically or buy something completely different. Because I have an extra Raspberry Pi keyboard thing. It's not doing anything. I
think there is the problem is the Raspberry Pi doesn't have the LoRa radio on it, and you've got to get that on there. So there are a couple of
but you think they would just make like a USB version though, like a USB version like they do with like Zigbee or Z-Wave or anything else, but I don't think they do. They basically make like daughter boards and stuff like that.
They exist, but yeah, the daughter boards are more popular.
Yeah.
And then like there's companies out there making like these little, like this is the first one I got. This is the one I've been testing with. It's like an on the go type little device.
Oh, that's very nice.
Yeah. It's like everything all in one. I found a 3D printer guy who makes there's a little clip so I can clip it on to something. And then also this is the reset button, which they just have right here. Like that's something you're supposed to press. Yeah. So like this guy printed this, and now unless you really want to, you can't hit the preset button. So like that's smart. But yeah, it's got a little e-ink screen on it, and you can like press it and it'll switch through the display there. Beep, beep, beep. says something else.
It's like a little robot. I like it.
Yeah. Well, and it's got like on the back of it, now that I covered it up, it's got all the pins and everything. It's like totally open source junk that you can do. And the same company makes other boards that have like OLED screens on them, and you can use the battery that Gavin needs for his water sensor thing. The same battery goes into this, and it's just got a bunch of stuff on it. Like this is a complete unit, and you could just take this and pop it in anywhere you want. And then I've got all these little tiny boards floating around. So like I've got a bunch of stuff. I've just got to start tinkering. I keep buying the wrong thing. Like it turns out with antennas, there's a lot of stuff that like I was like, I'll just buy this coax extension wire, and I got some of that. And I'm like, the ends are all wrong. Like one set, I thought it would needed to be a male, and it's a male on one side and a female. It doesn't make any sense. Like I had to go get some adapters and plug this stuff in. I'm kind of like more frustrated with the antenna parts of things than I am with the software or anything like that. But it's just because I don't know antennas very well. That's what I've got going on. I think I got a couple other things that I'm going to try and plug away on. I've kind of taken this week off to do stuff around the house and kind of get some stuff done. So we got Christmas coming up. I had like written down like Christmas lights, but then like there's a hurricane coming, so I don't want to put the Christmas lights out and make it blown away. I mean, that may be something you can watch on the camera, Gavin, but like,
not that I like to see your house get destroyed, but
I know. It's a fun way to do it, though, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, at least we can watch. At least we can do it all together. As a family.
Exactly. Yeah. Gavin, what you got going on?
I got too much going on.
Oh
no, yeah. Just want to give an update on. I mentioned last week I picked up the Tuya Zigbee human presence detector. I'm loving that little device. It's a battery powered Zigbee millimeter wave and PIR sensor. I have it running and set up in my bathroom, and I've tweaked the PIR sensor, so I had to tone that down so it wouldn't trigger, and you can tone up the millimeter wave sensor. And now in my bathroom, I could be in the shower, lights won't turn off. I could be testing out my bidets and the lights won't turn off, but then as soon as I walk out the bathroom, within 15 seconds the lights now know nobody's there and they turn off. So this thing is working really well. The only problem with it is that people say battery life, so I will see how long this battery lasts and report back in 6 months or so, and we'll see. But it's a great millimeter wave battery powered sensor. Works really well. So
not too many of those. So
exactly. That's why I just want to report back on the findings. If you've been following the CodeProject.ai drama, they kind of split off from their project, but they have been re-released their project. They're now located at codeproject.github.io, and they released a new version 2.8, which seems to be even faster with recognition and stuff like that. So it's been pretty good. So I upgraded to that and just wanted to share that. I know I mentioned the LLM Vision add-on for Home Assistant. This is becoming one of those add-ons that you just like, I would put in that top add-ons list. Just because of what it can do. They added a new feature this week that now you could tie things to a sensor. So if you wanted to have a sensor that counts the number of cars in your driveway, well, now you can feed it pictures from your camera and it will update sensors with the number of cars in your driveway. So you'll have a count. So if there's motion in your driveway, it will look at the picture and say, hey, there's 2 cars in there, update the sensor with 2 cars. Things like that. So, and that's just one example. You could do it for a number of people in your backyard or so many other things. Ask it pretty much anything. You could say, how many trees are in my backyard? And it will have a sensor for number of trees. It's really cool what it can do. And the developer seems to be very active in adding a lot more features. So this is one of those integrations where it's like, it's worth playing around with if you're into that type of stuff. You have ChatGPT and, you have cameras and you want it to analyze the video and answer questions for you. Last week I was on Home Gadget Geeks.
Yay.
So go check out that episode. We talked a lot of Home Assistant on that one.
That was fun.
This week I should be on Home Assistant podcast. So, look out for that one. I don't know when they'll get published though, but I'll be recording with them. And I just want to give a shout out to the Apollo Automation guys. They sent me a bunch more of devices. So they sent me a bunch of their devices. A lot of them were air quality sensors, and these little things are beasts. Like, they measure everything in your air. I mean, you could pass gas and it will trigger something and let you know, right? Like, these things are amazing. They actually almost give me too much information. It's to the point where it's like, I don't know what this means in terms of my air quality. So I turn off a lot of them, but then in general, just giving me the air quality. And they're so like expandable. Like, they have extra ports on it where you can add other things onto it. And it's almost like your little boards. You just add on all these modules and do so many more things. Well, this week they also sent me their new soil sensors. We're talking soil sensors again, right? These things are really cool. These are indoor soil sensors, so they're meant to go in plants, and they have two versions of them. One of them's not released yet, but one of them's a battery powered one, and that's really cool because all their sensors up to now have been all like wired power. Well, they're now starting to offer some battery-powered versions of their sensors. And the thing I like is it looks like it uses like an AA battery or something similar to that size, right? Which is just a normal battery, right? It's not a coin cell battery. It's just an AA battery. And I'm okay with that. I mean, it does add a little size to the product itself, but I mean, where you would put these, that really doesn't matter, right? And I'm going to be playing around with this. This looks really cool. I'd like to thank Justin over at Apollo for giving me. I'm going to be reporting back on that for sure. But the other cool thing they sent me was, this is their H1, and it's their first holiday ornament. So it's shaped in the shape of a little tree, and it's an ornament you hang on your Christmas tree. And it's also battery powered, which is really cool. But you could press the button, it'll play a little tune, lights will flash and stuff like that. And it's a nice addition to the tree. Now, the thing about this is what they've been doing with this, all the profits from the sales of this device have been going to charity, right? Which is a really nice thing. And they've already raised over $1,000 to charity, and they're doing a good thing for the community. So if you want to support them, add this to your shopping cart as well while you're over there ordering other stuff, right? And grab one of these. They're only $21. But like I said, it goes to a good cause and stuff, and it's great for the holidays. And this is the first one of their devices for the holiday season. So I got to get this set up and start playing with it. I just received it recently. But it's really cool looking. And the sad part is now I got to set up my Christmas tree soon.
Yeah.
He's just giving me more work.
Why is that the sad part?
Well, because now he's giving me more work. We always get this time of the year. It's just me and the wife, and it's like, do we set up the tree this year? Nah. We don't need a tree. But now it's like, I got to hang this ornament on something. And it won't be right if I just put it on the fireplace, like I have to.
So hold on. This is what you need to do. You need to buy one of those tiny little indoor Christmas trees. And that way you can put your soil moisture sensor in there and then put the ornament on it.
Maybe I'll go. There you go.
No, that's just becoming too much work. But I will.
Yeah, as I say, and you don't put the Christmas tree in soil anyway. So.
That's true too. So I will report back on these when I get testing. I know I'm hoping one day he'll look into getting an outdoor version of this thing. Because, me and my outdoor soil sensors, I'm going to be pitching that idea to him. But check it out. Apollo Automation on Google.com, I think it is. So many good sensors, so many good things he's doing with, they're all, ESP home sensors too. So it's really good stuff. Give it a shot. Give it a look.
100% local.
Oh yeah. It runs all locally. No cloud-based, nothing. Yeah, exactly.
Amazing.
Yeah. I think they're actually based out of, is it Kentucky they're based out of?
Yeah. Lexington, Kentucky, I think.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Maybe I'll drive down and see them.
No,
do the podcast with them.
I like what they're doing. It's not like they're doing anything that somebody else can do, but sometimes we're lazy automators. We don't want to put this stuff together or figure it out or write the code. We want somebody to just do it for us, and we'll buy it.
Can they make us a clock?
Let me email Justin and say, hey, can you make a couple of these clocks, and we'll just buy them off you. But no, it's some great stuff. I really like their air quality sensors though. I have one in my office, and what I've been doing with it is when I walk into my office, if the air quality is low, it actually turns on my filter, my air filter, so that will start running and stuff. And then eventually you see over time the quality gets better and better, and then it turns it off when it's at a good level, right? So things like that, it's really nice to know, because that's been the latest rage,
Yeah.
the air quality in your home. And I didn't even know I had bad air until I got one of these, and I was like, man, there's some bad air in this house.
They have the tiniest little multi-sensor, millimeter wave multi-sensor I've seen. And it, like, the thing is like most of them stand out like a sore thumb in the room. And this one is so small, you could just hide it away.
Exactly.
They have one like here, an example of it, like sitting on top of the books around a candle or something like that. Like, you wouldn't even notice that was there. Like, you see the wire and everything, but like, most people would never see that, and you could work on hiding that a little bit more.
And if he comes out with a battery version of it, even better, because then you don't have to run those wires or worry about power, right? I know a lot of his will actually sit in an outlet, but a lot of my outlets are behind couches and stuff like that, so it's kind of hard to work with that. But I'm always looking for a battery powered device, and I don't know why they always like to use those little coin cell batteries. I'm just put it in like a D cell, and I'll never have to change that ever. I'm good with that. Like, some of these, I don't need them to be super tiny. I just want, them to have a nice battery life.
Very cool. All right, we'll have to. I might get some of these multi-sensor things, because I need them to know when the daughter is getting out of bed.
Oh, your poor kid.
Yeah, poor kid. Yeah,
poor kid.
Get back in bed. It's 9:00.
Well, she's gonna beat you one day.
One day she'll figure out. Well, she kind of did. Like, she put some like these little counting blocks in front of the millimeter wave sensor, and like, she's not in her room. And she was in her room, passed out asleep, but these little foam blocks were covering the
she's getting
the
smarter, slowly getting smarter. Yep.
I think she's not tall, so what I'm going to do next is put it up on top of the bookshelf that we have in there now, so she won't be able to reach it or put anything in front of it, and it'll be up in the corner. So yeah, there we go.
All right, you put in the little devices, and Uncle Gav will show her how to get around them. So that wraps it up for this week. Yep.
All right. Well, cool stuff. All right. Well, I think that's going to wrap everything up this week. But we do want to give a big thank you to everyone who supports the show, but especially those who are able to financially support the show through our Patreon page. We had a couple come through recently. If you don't know about the Patreon page, head on over to HomeTech.fm/support to learn how you can support HomeTech for as little as $1 a month. Any pledge over $5 a month gets you a big shout out here on the show, but every single pledge gets you an invite to our private Slack chat hub, where you and other supporters of the show can gather in there and look at TJ forcing his neighbors into labor over the weekend. We were seeing updates in there for that. I don't know. There's a lot of good stuff. Actually, Ty posting that, we should probably make this a pick of the week one week, but like, he's got this new Raspberry Pi 2 touchscreen. That was
really cool.
Yeah,
yes,
that was very nice
for Home Assistant. Yes,
You use a little dashboard on your a little touchscreen.
Yep,
smart. Anyway, if you want to help with the show but can't support financially, we just appreciate a 5-star review on iTunes or a positive rating in the podcast app of your choice. That's going to wrap up this week in Home Tech News. Everybody, have a great weekend, and we will see you next week.
Till next time.
Uncle Gav says, take care.